Thanks. So my name is Liz McInerney. I'm based at the University of Miami, and I'm going to be talking about the power of mindfulness for community activists. Mindfulness is a Buddhist tradition that has been adapted and defined as the U.S. as this idea of awareness and attention in the present moment. Before we begin, I'd invite us to pause and as a group to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Deep breath in and out. And so we begin. Stress. It's here. It's bad. It's a public health crisis within the U.S., which is my setting of reference. And we know that it has effects both on a physical and a psychological level. In 2018, the American Psychological Association did their Stress in America survey, and they found that the average level for stress for adults was a 4.9. Their perceived healthy level of stress is a 3.9. And as you see, there are generational differences, with millennials coming in at a 5.7. In the work setting, stress can lead to this idea of burnout. We've seen this in all types of professions, but I'm really interested in one group that often doesn't receive a lot of attention, and that is, drumroll, community activists, also known as social justice advocates, community organizers, however you want to define it. But these are individuals who take their time, paid or unpaid, to fight for greater good. So, what are the stressors that we know that go on in the activist world? There have been 4 that have primarily been defined. The first one is this idea of negative interpersonal relationships that happen in organizing spaces, extensive time commitments that go outside of our regular 9-to-5 work, this idea of emotional vulnerability due to the intense nature of what activists are facing and potential triggers from trauma, in addition to a lack of support for self-care. It's also been kind of coined this idea of culture and martyrdom. So this can lead to burnout, and what we're seeing in the literature is about 50 to 60% of activists will burn out. Some will kind of take a break and then re-engage, but some won't come back at all. Given the world we live in, locally, nationally, domestically, kind of more at a cosmos level, this is really dire, and it kind of really does want to kind of draw our attention to what we can do to help activists. Hence, the popular call you've all heard, self-care, take care of the individual. But also, too, more an idea that's been around for a while, especially in our disability justice movements, related to this idea of mutual aid, self-care, how can we all come together? And so mindfulness, again, as we kind of now see this idea of kind of becoming aware and taking care of the self and the larger collective, I think is a nice way that we can start to think to combine both self and collective care together. So we know from kind of research-wise, mindfulness has benefits both on the individual level to help with stress, to be more aware, but also too, it can be argued, the more aware we become, the more we start to see the world around us and care more about the larger picture. So what's the connection to activists? Are activists practicing mindfulness? Does this work? And actually, we do have some evidence that they are indeed, and this is helpful. In 2015, Gorski conducted a phenomenological study with 14 activists who had a mindfulness practice. And what he found is on an individual level, mindfulness did help in reducing burnout. But on a larger collective level, all activists said their mindfulness practice made them better activists, made them more connected to the community. Which leads us with some questions. One, how can we better support these practices among community activists? Taking into mind, how can we help to decolonize, demystify these practices? And 2, how can we promote a cultural shift from this huge emphasis on self-care to one of collective care? I have the honor of working with an organization in Miami called the Maven Leadership Collective that serves as a great example of this. This is a group that works to instill leadership skills in LGBTQ members, folks of color in the Miami and Orlando area. Every month they have a free kind of community yoga session called Maven Moves. The idea behind this session is that we're here to take care of ourselves and our neighbor on our mat and our neighbor across from us. We always acknowledge folks who aren't able to be in the room for various reasons. The political element comes in, this idea we have each other's backs. My research is really interested in exploring more organizations like this that serve as a great example of how we can take care of the self and the larger collective and the activist community. And that's a wrap. Thank you.